Welcome back to Credentialing Chronicles, where we spill the doctor's tea hotter than your morning coffee.
And give you the insider scoop on the wild worlds of credentialing, provider drama, and everything they don't teach you in med school.
I'm Shannon, and she's Nylene, two credentialing pros with front row seats to the chaos, looking to make you a part of it. Yes, we want you to engage in spilling this tea with us. We need your love and likes, and we want to know what you think too. Look for us, please, on LinkedIn, Instagram, and yes, baby, even TikTok.
Yes, we love to see your love. From fraud scandals to burnout breakdowns and why your favorite surgeon might actually be banned from 5 hospitals.
Honey, we've got the gossip and the practical advice to keep you out of trouble and ahead of the game.
So grab your coffee, your compliance checklist, and maybe a lawyer, and let's get into it.
Welcome back to season 2 of Credentialing Chronicles. What are we doing, Nylene?
Oh, we're going to talk about a state I can't wait to go to one day because I really want to go there. It seems such a beautiful place, right? So we're going to talk about Alaska. We're going to spill the tea on Alaska. So if you're from Alaska and one of our favorite followers, we know who you are. Hey, please make sure you tag and listen and follow and subscribe. So what do people think about when they think about Alaska? What do you think? Give me some words that come to your mind.
Vast. Polar bears. Igloos. The indigenous people of America. Rivers. Salmon. Not credentialing. I ain't even gonna lie. Not credentialing.
No, but I think of like remote access to healthcare. Like, I'm like, man.
Of course you do. I'm thinking polar bears. You thinking remote access to healthcare. Okay. All right. We see where our minds are, y'all. Welcome to Alaska. Credentialing Chronicles Alaska edition.
Alaska isn't really messy because people aren't trying, and it's not their fault that there's like vast wildernesses, like you said. It's just messy because the system really wasn't designed to handle, Arctic weather for like ever, and like 2 months of like livable conditions. So 5 things that matter in Alaska, and obviously we've brought up the first one, which is geography.
Yes. I mean, really, when we're looking at it, credentialing systems assume proximity, right? Providers, I think, fly in and out of Alaska. I think there are some people that stay there long term, right? But I think maybe some people more kind of are going in and out. So, and I think probably a lot of, maybe telemedicine is probably used up in Alaska. I would imagine that one. And then, I bet that they are really heavily reliant, like maybe on temporary privileges, semi-permanent privileges. Because if people are moving in and out so fast, how are you getting them billable so fast? I mean, right? That's one of the questions.
So you're credentialing a lot of times someone who you don't have easy access to because you have to do everything remote. So it's not like, hey, just pass by my office and drop it off, right?
Things are like constantly in motion, right?
That's a big challenge, I think, in general. I mean, a lot of credentialing is done remote anyway. The problem is continuity of care is depending on who's available and not necessarily like who's ideal to deal with in that state.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that credentialing in the beginning, right? Let's all be honest. It was designed for hospitals with parking lots, right? And that is not who credentialers are anymore. That's not who MSPs are anymore. That's, to be honest, not even who doctors are anymore, right? Because doctors have went remote, MSPs have went remote. And I think that this is just really, Alaska is going to be a great opportunity for us to talk about all the challenges and everything that kind of go along with that. What do you think?
Yeah, because let's talk about locum tenens. So locum tenens, let's define it for the people who don't work in healthcare. Locum tenens, it's really just a temp agency worker, but the doctor version. That's what they call it. They call them locum tenens. And so locum tenens, a lot of times, are credentialed in a lot of locations. So they have a lot of verifications that have to be done.
Oh my God, the files are so big.
Right. And time consuming to credential. And so are people in Alaska. And let's talk about the time difference, right? What is it, 5 hours behind Eastern Standard? So think about the challenge of being so many hours, trying to be in a meeting where meeting is at 12. It's what, 7 in the morning over there? Yeah, 7 in the morning. So it's rough.
It is rough. And I mean, and if you're up in Alaska, if there's any way that you could comment on our episode on whatever platform you're listening and tell us, I mean, how are you dealing with these things that people in Arizona are never thinking about, in Georgia are never even thinking about, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, because the internet might be down. They might have a snowstorm, Exactly.
Well, okay. So a couple things I heard my friend in Alaska is that they're still, first of all, the hospitals are requiring medical staff at MSPs to work on site.
No.
Yes. And I'm like, why? Everything is electronic. Why would you need to have an on-site full-on medical staff department? Number one. So Alaska, I need you to open up about that.
What if all of their files and everything aren't fully automated yet, though? That might be a problem.
Well, then they need to hurry up and get automated.
And if you're listening here, we can help you get fully automated, honey, because that is, you got to keep your workforce at its best. And you are not going to find everybody who you need in Alaska.
Okay, so let's talk about that. And then let's talk about traveling, in and out, not only for the doctors, but for the staff. Now, that brings up a really good point because a lot of hospitals that I've worked at, they have a call schedule where there is a reporting time requirement or availability requirement.
Today's sponsor is HST Pathways. And if you work in or with an ASC, you already know this name carries weight with it.
Yes, absolutely. I've used HST firsthand while running an ASC, and a lot of my current clients are on it too. What I loved most was taking messy, manual, error-prone processes and turning them into clean, streamlined digital workflows.
And this isn't just one little tool, right? HST is an all-in-one ASC platform. They do billing, scheduling, inventory, electronic charting, analytics, the whole operation, baby, under one roof.
Exactly. When you're trying to be proactive instead of constantly putting out fires, having systems that actually talk to each other matters.
With over 1,800 ASC customers, HST isn't new to this, baby. They have proven this.
Yes, so if you are ready to level up on your ASC operations, reach out to HST Pathways and let them know Credentialing Chronicles sent you. So if in Alaska, you have majority of locum tenens who aren't there 6 months out of the year or 7 months out of the year, how do you maintain a functional call schedule? Right?
And that's really, I mean, I guess where it kind of comes in, it's like when you limit staff, it creates just this huge bottleneck, right? It creates challenges to getting the providers in. It creates challenges to patient access. And it kind of creates challenges, right, to the MSPs and how they're doing their jobs.
Mm-hmm. And patients and access to patients and making sure you get the healthcare that you need and that you got that, infection treated. I had heard some crazy stories about, a weird bacteria that somebody had gotten and they went to the hospital. It was from eating salmon, actually. And then it was a medical mysteries episode or something like that. And then it was in Alaska and they went to this provider and that provider and they ended up having to leave Alaska to figure out what the person had because there just wasn't those kind of doctors available. That's a big challenge for not only credentialers, but patients, and then obviously doctors, right?
And I mean, can we talk about payers in Alaska? I mean, are all payers in Alaska?
That is a great question. What I can tell you, one payer that Alaska has, because it's in every state, is a Medicaid plan. What can we talk about Medicaid in Alaska?
Well, I was going to say most payers in Alaska operate as all-in-one payers. So what they're doing is they're combining the commercial, the Medicaid, and even sometimes the Medicare products under literally one single umbrella. I mean, Alaska's unique where most of the payers are all on that kind of all-in-one model. So you get credentialed with one, you get credentialed with all. And it means that one organization often manages like the commercial part, the Medicaid, and then even the other lines of business. And they don't play like the lower 48 states. Most of its payers are, the plans and the products are very structured. So they're not even getting paid as much as the lower 48 states. So it's not very beneficial for Alaska.
Right. Because sometimes you enroll in a certain kind of plan and then that has a higher reimbursement.
Exactly. And if you're in the lower 48, and I don't understand why it would seem lower, because it seems like if you're in Alaska, you kind of need all your little dollars, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Wow. So if if you're not enrolled, then there's like no backup, because if you're one and all, it's like all or none kind of situation.
Well, it's one company for all commercial.
Right.
And then
so if you don't get that, what's your
Medicaid,
backup?
There is none. Yeah. And then it's different portals, different contracts, different reps, and Nylene, different timelines.
Oh, no.
I mean, so, when you're thinking of what our MSPs have to go through with most major payers are single organizations that manage multiple lines of business under one roof, it's just a little different. So instead of like 5 or 10 payers, you're actually dealing with just a handful of dominant entities. And so there's really limit.
Right. So then that's a direct delay in obtaining cash flow and revenue, and then ultimately access. Because if I have to wait 6 months, 8 months, so I hire a doctor, they might change their mind. They may have been hired in the summer. By the time winter gets there, they're like, oh, now you can see a patient. They're like, not when there's 12 feet of snow on the ground.
And it's not accidental that way they do this, because when they're thinking, the government's thinking like, well, how many people are there? Literally, they say that only 730,000 people live there. So it's a population under 1 million.
Wow.
And you have other unique situations like geographic isolation. That is huge in Alaska. And you have limited provider supply, like you said. So you have providers that are either there aging out, and then they're trying to bring in and out the other ones. And then what does that create, right? It creates this disaster of high cost delivery of care. And so, I think that, running dozens of separate plans and it just wasn't sustainable for Alaska. And so the plans kind of consolidated early, and guess what? They just stayed consolidated, and they never raised their rates, and they never thought about like, is this really still working? And it's just now the situation that Alaska's in.
So then what's the other group of people that you had mentioned at the beginning? You had talked about hospitals and tribal health systems, right? And that's another complex situation, because this is Alaska specific and important, right?
Important. Yeah, say it. Yeah, I mean, when we're thinking about it, it's under a separate umbrella, right? These are the tribal health organizations. So the dollars are supposed to be different. It's a federal dollars, state dollars, and then you have your local dollars. And then on top of that the dollars are different, the oversight levels are different. So everybody requires different oversight. And so it's constantly, MSPs are constantly trying to juggle, how the federal government wants some credentialing or something done as opposed to the state level wants things done. And it just creates this huge amount of credentialing across multiple systems that you kind of need an army of MSPs up in Alaska. Anybody want to move to Alaska? Anybody? Comment below if you're thinking of moving to Alaska, because they need us, baby.
Yes. So then they have to meet like hospital and tribal requirements, is what you're saying.
Yeah, and if they're Joint Commission or AAAHC or, which are very limited up there.
Wow.
Crazy. It's crazy the things that we've really uncovered in Alaska. It makes it so different than the 48 states below us. Like we're in Alaska. I know, right? Below us. Like I'm with the polar bears.
Yeah, you already moved in with the polar bears, girl.
I'm done. Yeah, I'm done.
So one misstep could really then affect the funding and affect, access to healthcare and trust, right?
Yeah. And I think when you say like, when people say, oh, it's dysfunction, it's not dysfunction, right? I mean, I think it's a structural overload. I think it's how it's been set up, how it's been dealt with all of these years. Nobody's ever, I guess to say if it ain't broke, don't fix it, but it might be a little broke, the payer system. I mean, if you're dealing with it out there in Alaska, let us know. We want to know, are we going down the wrong path because we don't credential in Alaska? Or are we on the right path? And again, what do we do to make it better? That's one of the biggest questions that we have through spilling the tea across America.
Yes. And so medical board. So now we did talk about our medical board. So we need to talk about the Medical Board of Alaska, because for those listening, every state has its own medical board. So what kind of medical board was found that Alaska is? Is it a loud, boisterous one that is all full of full of disclosures, or what did we find?
I think we found it to be very quiet board, another quiet board, but they carry a huge weight in Alaska. I think, have you ever heard the saying that people run away to Alaska?
Yes.
Yeah. And so, I mean, you have to think of it too, right? The bad doctors run away there too.
Mm-hmm. So then small boards, just because technically their board is a little smaller, right? They don't really get a pass because the stakes are actually higher. Because if you're running away there, that means you could potentially have some doctors that run into issues, which leads me to the scandals of Alaska. Because, we got to spill some tea.
I know, I'm always like, oh, the scandals.
So let's talk about some recent scandals in healthcare in Alaska involving physicians that highlight serious issues like, fraud, multi-million-dollar healthcare fraud. So there was these doctors that decided to, again, commit healthcare fraud by illegally doing opioid distribution and severe misconduct, including child sexual abuse material. But then that one died in a fire. That doctor, he ended up dying in a fire. But anyway, so these cases reveal that billing fraud and drugs and, narcotics and serious criminal behavior impacting patient care show that there is a problem as well. Even though it's a smaller medical board, they also have had to deal with very big problems and scandals, just like every other state.
100%.
The first story, the healthcare fraud girl. These doctors pled guilty in 2025 for $12.5 million in healthcare fraud by underdosing patients, giving them expired medications, and then filing false claims. Plus, girls, they did some tax evasion too.
Of course. Who wants to pay our taxes? None of us.
So picture this: Anchorage, Alaska, a quiet rheumatology clinic, long-term patients, because rheumatology is for like the joints, right? They deal with arthritis, people that go for like expensive injectable medications that they need for like bone health and whatever. But anyway, so behind the scenes, they had been running an entire fraud operation for over a decade.
Are you serious?
Mm-hmm. So they were treating autoimmune diseases, for example, rheumatoid arthritis and psoriatic arthritis. And these are people that, like I said, are on long-term medications. So it's like, you can't, But the husband was the back end guy. He wasn't a bystander. He was like in charge of the operations. So patients thought that they were getting full proper injections of these like high cost biologic medications, but they actually weren't. They were getting underdosed. They were getting like free samples, quote unquote, expired drugs that were meant for other patients, or like medications that were never purchased. So I don't even know how they got them, but whatever. So the point is that the math didn't math.
It doesn't sound like it.
No, they claimed injections of like 4,800 units, but they actually only purchased 369. So how could you administer 4,000 when you only bought 300?
They just threw some in there. They just threw them in there that thought nobody was going to see.
Yes. So when you bill insurance for something you don't have,
What do you get?
What do you get? So they got paid for all of this. So they billed the insurers over $12.5 million, right? More than 10 different insurance plans got hit. And then patients were placed, obviously, in a serious health risk. Because like you said, who always gets hurt, Shannon?
Yeah, the patients. I mean, so this rheumatologist is out. So where do they go now? Because remember, we're in Alaska. They don't have the next one down the street.
Yep. So, and then it didn't even stop just at the patients. Because remember, I told you like the tax evasion thing? Girl, these people inflated their like tax returns and they had income that was underreported for years. They didn't even file appropriate tax returns on the clinic. Like, girl, you know, we own businesses. You got to report your taxes.
You got to report it all. Yeah.
So they didn't do anything crazy from 2018 to 2021. They had over $4 million, girl, of unpaid taxes.
Just sitting.
Mm-hmm.
Hiding out in Alaska, Anchorage.
So who got involved, girl? The IRS, the medical board, the FBI, the VA, the FDA, all the A's got involved.
Everybody went up to Alaska to see what was happening at the rheumatology clinic.
So the fallout, right? They seized over $10 million from them. $6 more million they were ordered to pay in restitution. $1.85 million paid to settle the False Claims Act violation. Their medical licenses were taken away, which they were. So I did verify that. And they pled guilty. They're facing 10 years in prison for healthcare fraud and up to 5 years for tax fraud. And then the sentencing is still pending.
So Alaska said they not playing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because at that point, the U.S. District Attorney of District of Alaska gets involved, right?
Well, all of the A's got involved, so every single person got involved.
Yeah,
all
they
the
all was
alphabet
involved,
soup.
yeah.
So what's your takeaway?
Well, it doesn't sound like sloppy billing or that they didn't know. I mean, you don't come across millions like that by accident.
Right?
I mean, and you know, again, what are we going to say? The real victims are the patients who thought their disease wasn't responding, when reality, they were given medication that they didn't need, or not enough of medication that they did need, or everything else, right? I mean, everything else, that's what it's about, right? I mean, you know, and it's always the patients that get hurt.
Mm-hmm. So sometimes it looks like a quiet clinic when it's just a syringe full of lies, girl.
Ooh, okay. Exactly. Dun, dun, dun.
Mm-hmm. So keep going. Keep going. Girl, I found all these doctor stories out of Alaska.
I told you that's where they go to hide.
So this other doctor, he was a formal state medical board member.
Of Alaska?
Yes. And then he was arrested for child sexual abuse images, but he died this year. He died in 2025 from a fire.
Well, it seems like the bad ones are dying, so that's good that they're dying off.
Then we have another doctor who was arrested in 2019 for illegally distributing huge amounts of like narcotics, like over $700,000 pills. He had a whole pill mill. Like, isn't like shipping hard in Alaska? Like, I don't know. Girl, I looked up his license. Can we talk about Baton for a minute? Because of course I used my Baton verification, my primary source Baton verification. Thank you, Baton.
Thank you.
And for all our MSPs out there, if y'all want to stop, we can switch to Baton for primary source verification all in one. I suggest follow the link on our show notes and on our website. They do an amazing job. But anyway, so I plug in this doctor in Baton, and girl, I found this doctor had licenses in Minnesota, Idaho, and Alaska. But they're now expired, so they're relinquished, thank goodness. But if he was doing it since however long he's had things, how many pill mills do you think he ran?
That I was going to say, that's the question. It's always the pattern of behavior. I mean, that we're always seeing, that we always are talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Another doctor pled guilty to illegally distributing narcotics, surrendering his license in 2021. A neurology center settled a $2 million suit in 2020 over, again, fraudulent billing for unbundled codes or false provider information, saying that a doctor saw somebody that they really didn't see. And then in another 2020 case, there was another doctor that was charged in 2020 for billing millions for unnecessary, urine tests.
Who was he urine testing?
I guess everybody came in and got a urine test, whether they needed it or not. So that was triggered by a patient's surprise bill. So a patient's like, wait, why did I get a urine test? I didn't get a urine test. Like, or why are you saying I got a urine test and I didn't get a urine test? Or why did I get a urine test when I didn't need a urine test?
What's happening with all the urine tests?
Exactly. But can I tell you a secret? Girl, I put him through baton too. Guess what I found out?
What?
He done left Alaska, but he got an active license in California.
And you know California's coming up, y'all.
Check your licenses, credentialers. This is why you need a platform you can check all 50 states.
Yeah, I mean, that's what's happening. I mean, ultimately, that's what's happening, right? Providers mess up in one state and go to another state and say, you know what? It's a brand new state. It's a brand new life. And our job as credentialing individuals, professionals, is to say, yes, it's a brand new life. We support you, but everything needs to be fully disclosed, right?
Yep. And hopefully you don't do it again.
Yeah, I don't even care if you do it again, but we need at least it to be disclosed so that way we could track the pattern of behavior.
That's your favorite phrase, pattern of behavior.
Well, because we see it. I mean, we did 50 shows last season. And I would say in literally 35 of those shows, that's what we seen in every single one was like the pattern of behavior and how it never started with the first one or the last one that we found out about, you know?
Right. So the cases demonstrate significant fraud, right? Drug diversion and professional misconduct. So you cannot, get off your toes if you are credentialing in that state, right? And don't go and try and hide because we're going to find it. Because I know there's amazing MSPs out there.
And I mean, really, the only thing that me and Nyleen's goal in life is to make MSPs better. Right? I mean, if I can die on the fact that MSPs are credentialing better because I was alive, then so be it. I could die happy. So I'm just saying we're getting better and better at catching people. And again, like tools like Baton are what help us see the big picture that people try to hide sometimes, I think.
Efficiently in time, because tiny credentialing teams have a massive responsibility in places like Alaska because it's going to be a high volume, even though there's like smaller, I guess you would say, facility or whatever, less people to treat, you got to have the doctors available. And so there's little redundancy. So you're not necessarily seeing the same people over and over. Like we said, there's this turnover. So you always have to be on your toes if you are working in Alaska, right?
There is already a shortage of staff because the people in Alaska expect you to be at the hospital. And so, that creates already like a barrier to, if Susie is tired, Susie might not do 100%, So again, having, systems like Baton or other credentialing software allow some of that burden to be shared with the credentialing software,
So, doctors, Alaska is not a shortcut state, okay?
I mean, you can see all of the cases that you found. I mean, so the things are being found out. Even if you go up there to hide and do bad stuff, they're being found out.
Right. And just know, if you're going for temporary work, it doesn't mean you get temporary or you get limited scrutiny. They're going to check everything. Just like if your regular full privileges in any other state that you have, you're going to have to provide the same information and you're going to have to be queried on all the licenses and all the data banks and all the, sanctions. Okay. So clean files really matter. Make sure you have all your documents ready because it's the easiest thing. So what do we have for patients? So what can patients take away from Alaska and credentialing?
Well, I'm always going to say, for the patients, you have to understand that provider turnaround is real, that providers are coming up to Alaska to escape things, start a new life, but a lot of them don't change their behaviors. So again, you need to know what questions to ask. Have you made it through credentialing? Have you had any board actions? Have you had any patient complaints? These are all legitimate questions to ask. You need to make sure that if they say you're going to see Dr. John Smith on Tuesday, then you look up John Smith on the Alaska Medical Board and see what you can find out about John Smith, because that is going to save you. It's not the credentialing people's job to disclose what they do find out, but public record allows you to go and find out what you can find out yourself, so that you have more knowledge.
Okay, so again, to our MSPs and our friends and our patients and our doctors, if you work in Alaska, if you have a license in Alaska, a hospital, a tribal system, if you're an MSP, it doesn't matter.
If you are a tribal system, you better get in contact with us. We want to hear how you're doing it.
Yes, and we want to know what works up there. Is there something that we sounded completely ignorant and dumb about because we don't know, we don't live in Alaska? What absolutely does not work? And if you are forced to work on site, can you put us in contact with your CEO or something? We need to get to 2025. Y'all need to be able to work from home. Expand your work. Exactly. Expand your workforce. I don't want to see that there's an MSP position on site 100% required. No, we need to get to 2025.
It's exhausting people. They can't do it. People work more efficiently. MSPs work more efficiently when they can integrate the work with their life, because that's how the doctors do it. And so it allows us, sometimes your MSP might need to work at 11 o'clock at night, because guess what? That's when the doctor can do the application. And if you have them in the office 9 to 5, just burning the oil for no reason, they're going to be tired at 11 o'clock. They're going to be tired.
Yes. Okay, so Alaska shows us what happens when systems built for the 48 states, lower states, meets real world extremes.
Definitely. And I would say the Alaska is going to show us the importance of trusting your MSP when your organization hires them. Your organization hires you, they put trust in you. And if it's at a point where they don't trust you to be remote or this and that, or they're making you do this, or they're making you work in a way that doesn't feel natural to you, voice your concerns, voice your opinions, and get the work environment that you deserve, because our profession deserves trust. We are not secretaries. We're not there to answer phones. We need to have quiet. We need to have peace. We need to put all these pieces of a puzzle together called a doctor, so that we make sure that the organization is getting the best medical staff, right?
That's for sure.
Well, next week, we have a new state. Has very different problems, but guess what? The same consequences, because if things happen in a bad way, it always falls on the
MSP.
No, the patient. I'm like, the patient.
Oh yeah, the patient suffers the consequence.
Every time.
But I'm gonna bring the tea, girl. I'm gonna feel brilliant, because I gotta get some crime stories in there, okay? Some drugs, some action, some murder. I don't know. I gotta find something. So we're gonna talk about something exciting.
Ooh, and there's so much exciting, because our next state is Arizona.
Ooh, okay.
All right. Well,
okay.
Credentialing Chronicles is out for Alaska. Talk to you soon. Woo, that was a whole lot of tea. Who knew doctors had more drama than reality TV?
And if you think that was wild, just wait till next week. We've got more stories, more scandals, and more credentialing chaos coming your way.
And if you love the tea, please don't keep it to yourself. Like to show us you're listening. Please comment and join the conversation, and follow us on LinkedIn, Instagram, and TikTok. Also, share so everyone else can sip with us.
Yeah, so see you next time on Credentialing Chronicles. Stay credentialed, not canceled.